Ah, 2016. Definitely one of the years of all time. I see a lot of nostalgia for this time period nowadays, even though I seem to remember everyone hating the year as it was happening. I was still in high school back then, but I was well into my technology hobby. I had just finished building my second ever computer, Sonic V2 or Supersonic, and I was oogling at the Oculus Rift CV1 and HTC Vive as they were coming to market. I remember one fateful day in my video production class, after having finished the work for the day, I logged onto a school iMac and loaded up LTT's latest video. I forget which one, this one, I think? I remember watching it and feeling a tinge of hurt for some reason. You see, my new PC only had a lowly i7-4790K, rather than something 6th gen like the processor's Mr. Tips here was recommending. Thankfully, I'd already seen reviews that showed the difference between the old and new CPUs was pretty minimal, but I will always remember that video as the first time my poor, underdeveloped brain felt the consumer lust for the latest and greatest, despite already having something that more than met my needs. Fast forward 10... Holy crap, has it really been 10 years? Fast forward 10 years and the PC landscape is a little different. Windows 7 is dead, ripped to a real one. Flagship CPUs have at least double the cores than was previously the norm, and AI is currently wreaking havoc on everything. But, dear viewer, I want to ask you something. What do you actually use your computer for? Specifically, for those of you who are around in 2016, how has your computer use really changed since then? You probably play newer games, I certainly do, and I'm sure there's some of you out there who now use your computer for compiling complex code, rendering 3D animation, or some other type of computation-heavy task. But let's be real, most of the time we actually spend on our computers is probably spent in a web browser, or maybe on a chat app, simple work tool, stuff that doesn't really need that much CPU muscle. If a computer from 10 years ago did all of that just fine, how well can it still do it today? I just so happen to have received some retired Dell computers recently, again, and today I want to find out just how usable a rando office computer from 10 years ago can still be. Spoilers, it's still more than fine for anything you could do in a web browser, but what about modern games, video editing? Could a computer like this be your ticket to a future without subscriptions? Speaking of which, thanks to Microsoft, you might actually be able to score one of these computers for a really great price. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back. I'm Seth. So, I've done a couple videos now on old Optiplexes, all of them definitely in the realm of retro. But these computers, featuring 6th or 7th gen Intel Stop. No, wait, I didn't mean it. These computers, featuring codename Skylake or Kaby Lake Intel processors, really aren't retro. Sure, they're 10 plus years old now, and were released right at the tail end of Intel's stagnant years, where there was no competition stopping them from just releasing 5% faster quad cores year after year. But I clearly remember when these were top-of-the-line computers, and I'm still pretty young in the grand scheme of things. I personally know people who still daily drive this era of hardware, including tons of people in my audience. If you're one of them, right on, dude, run that sucker into the ground. But what really brought these computers to my attention was actually Microsoft, of all things. It's somewhat old news now, but you might remember that Windows 11 had somewhat controversial minimum requirements, including secure boot support, a TPM 2.0 chip, and that the CPU be on a list of supported compatible processors. This list notably excluded anything older than 8th gen Intel Core and 2nd gen AMD Ryzen, which is stupid. I'm not the first person to point out that not only do plenty of incompatible processors still perform great, even on a bloated OS like Windows 11, tons of incompatible computers fully support Secure Boot and have TPM 2.0 built in. All of these computers I'm showing you today support these features and have the applicable ones turned on. When those system requirements originally came out, it didn't really matter because you could still use Windows 10, but now that 10 has lost support, a ton of these computers have been and are being decommissioned. That's how I got my hands on these. Machines like this are already popping up all over the place on various markets for super reasonable prices, and you might even be able to get them for even cheaper or free if you know the right people or can use that riz that I know you have to pull the right strings. And given the current state of hardware, not only could a lot of people out there use a good deal, I think it might be a good time for a reality check to remind ourselves just how useful computers are in general. Even older ones, and especially ones that tech monopolies like Microsoft apparently want you to throw in the garbage. So let's meet our contenders. Today I've got 3 computers that fit this category, but we'll only be taking a look at 2 of them. The desktops here pretty much perform identically. Both have i7-7700s, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and Gen 3 NVMe SSDs. The Optiplex 7050 is more compact and has a built-in USB-C port, but suffers from being designed with proprietary internal connectors. The Precision Tower 3620, however, uses standard USB headers and can, with one simple adapter, use any standard ATX power supply. So we'll be running all of our tests on that one today, and I would definitely recommend it over the Optiplex for any tinkerers out there. I've thrown an RTX 2060 Super into the machine, both because it's a great pairing with our i7 here, but also because it's a pretty universal minimum spec card for a lot of new games nowadays. It also happens to be very useful for someone like me. It's new enough to support modern upscalers, but also still has DVI and adds a USB-C port to any computer that I throw it in. The laptop here, a Precision 7520, is also pretty solid, and I mean that both in specs and build quality. The screen is only 1080p 60Hz, but its colors really pop, and from all angles. It's got a lot of bezel and is curiously missing a webcam, but I'm pretty sure you could have spec'd one from the factory. Doesn't matter for my needs anyway. The keyboard feels great, with minimum deck flex and a healthy amount of travel on the keys, and we've also got a really useful array of ports. Gigabit Ethernet, plenty of USB 3 ports, an SD card slot, headphone jack, HDMI and mini DisplayPort, and even frickin' Thunderbolt 3. All packaged in a nice metal or soft touch rubber coating. Hopefully we have a long while before that rubber coating inevitably melts. As far as specs, this laptop features a Core i7-6820HQ running at 2.7 GHz, 24 gigs of DDR4 RAM, a 512 gig NVMe SSD, and a dedicated GPU, an NVIDIA Quadro M1200 with 4 gigs of VRAM. It should perform pretty similarly to our desktop, actually. Kaby Lake was more or less just a refresh of Skylake, with single-digit performance differences between the two generations. The most meaningful difference will definitely be between the GPUs. So let's take a look. Starting with the laptop on Windows 11, normal daily usage is a pleasure. Everything is snappy and quick. Sure, not quite as snappy as my 9800 X3D computer, but remember, this laptop is literally an entire decade older. And yes, I know my standard for computer usability is maybe a bit warped. I've described a Pentium 4 machine as usable, but this really is more than usable. No cope, no accounting for the age of the machine, nothing like that. This is just straight up an extremely cromulent daily driver with no caveats whatsoever. Not that that's surprising to me, it's not. Next, gaming. As expected, 2D titles work great, as does anything that's mobile game tier. Anyone up to pop some balloons? Also as expected, earlier 3D stuff works great. Half-Life 2 runs like a dream, Xbox 360 games like Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition and Fallout New Vegas run amazing. But that's not really impressive anymore. Android tablets can run those games now, so let's stress this sucker out. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, a AAA game from 2018, runs okay. We can get FPS in the 30s at 1080p medium settings, which I would consider to be acceptable for a single-player game like this. Sonic Frontiers, a game from 2022, at low settings and the resolution scale turned down, also runs acceptably. This isn't a super graphically impressive game by any means, but it is fairly recent and not particularly well optimized. I was genuinely surprised to see it run okay. If you're curious about my thoughts on the game, I think it's good, a little underdeveloped, but could be a great foundation for a more fleshed out sequel. Finally, Monster Hunter World, a triple hunter... Sticks, I'm in the middle of a shot. Finally, Monster Hunter World, another AAA game from 2018, and one of my personal favorites, runs. Yeah, it just runs, not well. But with the settings and resolution turned down, I can actually get kind of acceptable frame rates. I don't know if I'd actually play the game like this, but it is blowing my mind to see it running well at all. I think this game still looks really good, even if it is a little older now, and can definitely still stress some hardware out. I think it's a pretty good indication of the limits of the hardware on this laptop, at least as far as gaming goes. As for productivity, I don't want to spend too much time here, I'm saving it for the desktop, but GIMP here runs great. I'm able to work with the file I made for last video's thumbnail just fine, no issues. DaVinci Resolve works great as well. Here's a quick little 1080p YouTube poop I made and rendered on this laptop.
Authorized payment on the you authorized phone sex.
I broke into their house, Mr. Huff.
and Sally sob story.
I'm Bob.
I'm SpongeBob.
What, you've gotten complaints?
Sex.
I can handle. What I can't handle is
Poor people. Who's helping them out?
losing your...
Now for the desktop. I'm pulling out the 4K monitor for this. I really do think this computer is still very capable, so let's step things up. Basic use like web browsing is amazing. I'm not going to waste your time showing you that. 2D games and old 3D games also run well, even rendered at full 4K. Hollow Knight ran with no issues, as did BioShock Infinite. JK, BioShock Infinite was actually pretty stuttery at pretty much every resolution. You'll see why in a bit. Shadow Generations ran great though. Now for the actually stressful stuff. Here's Monster Hunter World running at 4K on medium settings with a couple select settings turned off. This game looks amazing at 4K, and this 9-year-old CPU and 7-year-old GPU are running it comfortably. And this is just my older game of choice. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of amazing games that you've never played that a computer like this can run amazingly. Don't forget that these games exist just because they aren't advertised anymore. Okay, but what about the newest games? Well, Cyberpunk 2077 also runs pretty okay. Not at 4K, just 1080p, but I'm able to get 70-ish FPS in the benchmark at low. More than playable in my opinion. Monster Hunter Wilds puts up playable numbers too at 1080p low, at least in this starting area. I use this game as an example both because it's a pretty taxing game to run, and to compare it to Shadow PC, whose Titan X GPU could not play this game, even with the help of lossless scaling. Okay, well, let's see if lossless scaling does anything. Okay, we're getting the same frame rate, like 20 FPS. No, this is not helping. Oh my god, the Palico text is so garbled, oh my god. Oh, and I haven't even told you the best part yet. This Precision desktop is running Linux Mint. Yep, all of these numbers were through the Proton compatibility layer. If Microsoft doesn't want you to run Windows on these computers, maybe you should take them up on that offer and install Linux instead. I'd bet that for most non-gaming tasks, Linux will actually be faster than Windows just because there's less bloat and telemetry and whatever nonsense running in the background. With that now said, on to productivity. I decided on 3 tests for this section: a 3D rendering benchmark, 4K video editing, and running a local LLM. Yes, I know, I hate AI too, but LLMs do still have some legitimate use cases, and if you're gonna use one, running it locally is the best way. So, I've never rendered a 3D animation in my life. My animation career ended with Flash 5 in around 2010. But here's the results of the Blender benchmark on this computer. And in the interest of actually showing you something, I downloaded multiple demo projects from Blender's website and took a look around. Everything seemed pretty responsive. My guess is that a machine like this would be fine for animation work, but rendering the final product would just be very slow. Depending on the complexity of your project, it may still be fine, or something you just have to render overnight or on a different computer or something. As for video editing, again, DaVinci Resolve works great. Here's another quick YouTube poop, edited and rendered in 4K on this computer.
This is me. Must have lemon.
Oh, you can smell all that? You have
Garbage. This is a meme.
I don't like secrets. All this cook and re. It's like you're involving me in crime.
Emil.
No, what are you blathering about?
Garbage.
Garbage Island? What's Garbage Island?
Stop that!
Garbage.
Finally, that LLM. Since most people rightfully hate AI, including me, I'll be quick. I was able to download and run a small DeepSeek model via LM Studio just fine. If you want to run anything else, you'll have to keep the 2060 Super's 8 gigs of VRAM in mind. So, some of you might be pointing out, Seth, all of these tasks run on the GPU. What's the point of this video if the RTX 2060 is actually the star of the show and not the Dells? Well, that's kind of the reality of modern computation tasks. Most of them are just best executed on a GPU, and if your GPU isn't bottlenecked by PCIe Gen 3, then a platform this old might still be plenty for you. But don't worry, we're about to use the CPU. Speaking of which, I think I've saved the most useful information in this video for last. I know that a lot of people watching this video already have a good daily driver computer. You're probably watching this video on it right now. So why would old computers like this matter if you've already got a machine that'll write your documents and play Fortnite? Well, I think you still might want to pick up a computer like this anyway, because they can be excellent and extremely cost-effective home servers. I touched on this in my last video. Basically, I think a big reason why the tech industry, and kind of the world at large, are going to shit is because big tech companies have too much power. They get a lot of that power from the sheer amount of people that use their services, yes, even and especially the free ones, and therefore trying to take back that power by not using their services is a good thing to do. And I think the coolest and most fun way to not use big tech services is by hosting them yourself instead. It's a bit of a rabbit hole, but I just want to whet your appetite today and show you that computers like this, that I remind you are cheap and extremely easy to find, are perfect for small or starter home lab setups. There's a lot of options as far as operating systems go for home servers. I personally use Unraid. It's perfect for me. Man, I love Unraid. But I did have to buy a pricey lifetime perpetual license, and there are free alternatives out there. For this video, I'm going to be installing Zima OS, an operating system I was made aware of from this Damn It Jeff video. It's completely free, as long as you have fewer than 3 users and 4 disks, so absolutely perfect for anyone just starting out. Installation is simple. Just make a USB flash drive installer and run it to install Zima OS to the drive on your server. Then when the server boots up, it'll tell you to open a web browser on another device on your network, and voila! Here we are, an easy way to interface with your first ever home server. For this video, I'm going to be showing you Jellyfin and Nextcloud, because I think they are among the most useful services you could have running on your server. They'd replace your Netflix and your Google Cloud or iCloud services respectively. And for local use, they're super easy to set up. Just go to the Zima App Store, install the apps, configure a couple settings like pointing them to the right folders, and there you go. I copied over Jimmy Neutron and a Goofy movie from my actual home server. Peak cinema, I know. And they play 100% fine streaming to any other device on my network.
Sheen, this is the 7th week in a row you've shown Ultra Lord in class.
Miss Fowl. This one is different.
The Nextcloud app on Zima OS is a little bare bones at first. It's pretty much just a file store and a nicer way to see your photos. That surprised me at first, because the container I installed on my Unraid server had notes, a calendar, and an in-browser document editor turned on by default. Turns out those are pretty easy to install on Zima as well. And yeah, it all works great. I don't know what to tell you other than that. Set this up, buy a hard drive, and you might never have to buy a cloud service ever again. And these 2 apps are just scratching the surface. You can self-host your own password manager, a better version of Google Photos, your own home assistant. The sky's kind of the limit. I have my server set up so that if I connect through a VPN, it can wake up Sonic PC from sleep and let me remote desktop into it from any web browser. Maybe you could buy one of the thin client versions of these computers and make it your router with Pi-hole installed so that your entire network now has ads blocked on it. If you're tech inclined like me, going down this rabbit hole will be really fulfilling. And what's better than a tech rabbit hole that's fun, teaches you networking, makes you more independent, saves you money, and literally, in a small way, makes the world a better place. All running on computers you can pick up for real cheap because Microsoft thinks they should be garbage. Is that not the coolest fucking thing ever? Are you not entertained? Miley, get out. Get out, Miley. So on that note, what did we learn today? Well, it's pretty clear to me that consumer technology is on a bit of a plateau. Compared to the speed at which computers became obsolete in the past, PCs last way longer than they ever have. These 10-ish-year-old computers, which Microsoft doesn't feel like supporting anymore, are not even close to being obsolete for basic use, and there are still plenty of meaningful productivity tasks and even modern gaming that they can do with the help of a newer GPU. And even as time passes and their power does eventually fade, I think computers of this vintage could have long, happy, useful lives as home servers. If you just need a machine for basic tasks, or you're feeling squeezed by the hardware shortage and you need something cheap, or you're looking into getting into home labbing, I highly recommend keeping machines like this on your radar. They're useful ass computers, what else can I say? They don't deserve to be in a landfill. And with that said, Thanks for watching. If you liked this video shining a spotlight on older computers, consider liking or subscribing. I have more videos just like this one in the works that you will probably like. Anyway, that's all for now. Have a good one.